Hey, so I'm recording this because this past week, I was blown away on a court case that took place in Wisconsin. I don't remember the city offhand, but just to add context, there was a person by the name of Darrell Brooks who was alleged at the time to commit a terrible murder. I'm talking about a person who went into their vehicle, allegedly, and ran over and fatally murdered 6 people at a Christmas parade. Now, I found that the court proceedings relating to this case to be hilarious because Darrell Brooks exemplifies the type of person, and I'm not just talking about a person who comes off as narcissistic. If you don't understand why I'm saying these things, I want you to look up Darrell Brooks, Christmas Day Parade, and Sovereign Citizen on a search engine. And you'll have a better understanding of the background story. And I don't want to get too deep into it. But he went and took his vehicle and ran 6 people over, probably even more, to their deaths, but at least 6 people died and many others that were injured. And he had to face his time in court. And the reason why I found this case to be very interesting, and I say that very lightly and respectfully, because there are many other things that I can say, like I found this entire court case, specifically Darrell Brooks involved, to be moronic, stupid, silly, outrageous, a waste of the court's and probably the public's time. Primarily because of a few reasons. One, he decided to take the case in a pro se fashion. And, again, I'm not a lawyer, but the last time I checked, when a person decides to go pro se on a case, that means the individual is representing themselves in a court case. And I find that in itself to be stupid, because if I was alleged to have committed a murder, I am going to do everything in my power to make sure that I'm in the best position, if not to beat the case, but to not put myself in a position to end up going to jail, or in this case, to prison for life, which is exactly what happened to Darrell Brooks. I would probably seek legal representation. I would probably refer to legal experts in some capacity to make sure that what I'm doing is something that is productive and worthy of the court's time. When you are defending yourself in a criminal case where there is the possibility of a life sentence on the line, and to take the case on pro se, it tells me two potential things about you. Either you are the smartest person in law and you really think that you got a chance to beat this case, or you are the biggest narcissistic fool that I've ever met and really don't have a real grasp of the severity of the issue, of the situation that you are in. And for Darrell Brooks, I feel more acclimated to erring on the latter option than the former, the second over the first. Because when Darrell Brooks walks into this court case as a sovereign citizen, which, by the way, I think sovereign citizens and the sovereign citizen movement is silly, especially when you're trying to do this in the court of law. Because when you call yourself a sovereign citizen, you're basically saying to people that I am literally above the law, right? To be a sovereign citizen means that the rules of the land, the laws of the land, does not apply to you because you see yourself as a sovereign. You see yourself as a king or a queen or a dignitary that is worthy of immunity from the law. And that is absolutely stupid, right? Because I would rather try to use the best evidence that I can to prove that I did not commit a murder and try to fight it that way. Or Be like, look, I am guilty. I have made a big, big mistake. I throw myself to the mercy of the court, and hopefully they will take mercy upon me and come up with a ruling, or at least try to do something that it doesn't lead to a jury determining whether he should have life or not. And quite frankly, you have to be the biggest idiot in the world to think that, going to a court proceeding of this nature, of this magnitude, as a so-called sovereign citizen, is going to be a very strategic method for you to win the case. Moreover, there were moments where Darrell Brooks would do certain things that, again, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a judge, I'm not involved in the legal system in that regard, in the judicial system in that regard. But I do know that there are just certain things that he does in the court that I just find it to be an absolute waste of everybody's time, including himself. Aside from the whole sovereign citizen trickery where he would talk about, subject jurisdiction, in terms of who has the jurisdiction to take on the case. Again, I could be throwing out the term in an improper way, but the general gist is that he would constantly make objections about the jurisdiction of who can take on the case, where it has been noted several times that, the Supreme Court of Wisconsin has the jurisdiction to take on a case where the incident at hand took place in the county where the court is in, right? So if the county in the state of Wisconsin is taking on the case and is adjudicating the case and leading the proceedings based off of a situation that occurred in that county, in that state, I don't understand why challenging on that basis would make any sense for Darrell Brooks. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but I just don't think that call makes any sense if the writing was on the wall as to where it occurred, right? It would be totally different if this was a question of, okay, well, this might have occurred on native land in Wisconsin, and then you have to have that debate. Or, okay, this took place outside of Wisconsin, like Indiana. So yeah, now we got to worry about, is this something that has to be under the jurisdiction of the courts of Indiana versus if it's in the courts in Wisconsin? But that was not the case. And then to even go a step further, you're doing things like, I am not Darrell Brooks, right? Do not acknowledge me as Darrell Brooks. Which we all know who the hell you are. This ain't Muhammad Ali trying to get a bunch of people to be like, yo, say my name. I'm not Cassius Clay. I'm Muhammad Ali. And we saw where that went, right? In this particular issue, I don't even think this strategy makes any sense. And I don't see how it even benefits the court, or in this case, benefiting himself. I don't know how it helps the jury. If anything, if I was a juror and I had to hear this, I would be highly annoyed, because I'm not going to want to sit here and waste my time knowing that I have to make a decision over someone's life, and the individual wants to be an idiot and be like, well, I'm not Darrell Brooks. Do not call me Darrell Brooks. I'm not to be acknowledged, right? I'm pretty certain that there are people that are smart enough to see the game that Brooks is doing, and I just don't see how that was beneficial for him in the long run. All it does is that it creates this illusion of confusion, right? This sense of, well, if I'm not going to win this case, I'm going to create this facade of chaos that the court has to deal with as Brooks tried to delay the inevitable of being deemed guilty, right? Of course, he is innocent until proven guilty, but honestly, bro, if your strategy of your defense is predicated off of bullshit laws coming from sovereign citizens, trying to not even identify yourself into the court case by dissolving your identity and calling yourself an entity, not as a person, right? Like, you're doing everything in your power to show how narcissistic you are and delaying the inevitable, right? Because if you really had a court case where it's like, yo, I wasn't the person that was in the car driving the vehicle that ran over a bunch of people in a parade. Like, if you had that sort of defense, then this would be a totally different discussion. But when you come in on this sovereign citizen bullshit, when you try to, make stupid, objections based off of jurisdiction in terms of who has the jurisdiction to take the case, and even go as far as to be like, well, stop calling me so-and-so. I am this. Oh, he doesn't even tell you what he should be named. The only thing he says is that is not his name. Darrell Brooks is not his name, right? All you're doing is you're frustrating the judge, because the judge at many points in the case had to remove him from the court. So there are certain things that he could have placed on record that he didn't have a chance to. There were instances where he nearly lost the opportunity of giving a closing statement because of his behavior. Like, look, you can be anti-law, anti-government. You can be like, fuck the police, fuck the police, fuck the police, fuck the jury, and fuck all these people, F everybody, right? But at the same token, if you don't have a case, all you're doing is you're making yourself out to be seen as a fool. And you're giving the state a very easy pathway to victory. It's like they don't even have to do much, because when your opponent in this case is incriminating themselves, all you're going to do is just sit back, relax, and watch the whole thing implode by that person. They don't have to do a damn thing. And the state did a decent job in terms of proving in various ways how Darrell Brooks committed the issue, that committed the crime, that killed 6 people. So I'm watching this court case, and I want to feel sympathetic because, sure, maybe the guy is mentally deranged. Maybe the guy has some mental issues. Sure. But at the same token, if you are defending yourself and you don't really have a court case to really go toe-to-toe against the state, I don't understand why you just didn't take the guilty charge as is and figure out a way to get the mercy of the court to not give you a life sentence. Sure, that might sound like a defeatist type of mindset, but what is the alternative? The guy doesn't have a case, and he knows it. So he's throwing every single level of distractions out there with this sovereign citizen bullshit, to the I'm not Darrell Brooks, to the random objections that really all it does is just creates frustration and confusion and really hurts the credibility of himself and possibly the court case. It doesn't surprise me that the jury is going to look at this and be like, yep, he's guilty. And then, of course, Brooks is going to be like, well, this whole thing was set up. The jury, the state was against me. The judge is against me. The witnesses are against me. Shoot, he's against himself. He doesn't even want to claim himself to be himself. The whole world is out to get him. And I feel like if that's where you're at and you chose to go pro se on a criminal case where there's a possible life sentence on the line, this is the reason why everybody needs to slow down on getting all of your knowledge from fucking YouTube and Reddit and Twitter and social media. It is in your best interest to talk to professionals that have put their lives on the line to understanding the law. They have spent years trying to understand the craft and master the craft so you can get the best legal advice possible to defending yourself or having them defend you so you can have the best chance at beating this case. This man has done everything the opposite to try to get himself out of prison. And honestly, anytime I try to see a court case where a person go pro se, I try to not laugh at it because this is a person who's literally fighting for their lives. But I also feel highly concerned because unless the individual has a legal background where they could go toe to toe against, the defense team or, whatever, you're not in a good position of winning this case if that's the route you want to go. And Darrell Brooks is an excellent example of why, when you solely rely on the bullshit that's being disseminated through such places like the sovereign citizen movement, that shit can cost you your life. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't go on YouTube and listen to alternative voices and their understandings of the law, right? Me personally, I enjoy from time to time more of an entertainment factor than that of an educational factor of watching First Amendment auditors check law enforcement of their understanding of the law, of the Constitution, to make sure that they're not being abused by the police, right? I watch from time to time. There are some things that I find quite educational. I also think that there are things that I find quite entertaining. To be honest, the entertainment outweighs the educational factor, because I want to make sure that if I have a full understanding of the law, sure, I can look at YouTube. Sure, I can go on the internet and go on Google and search and find information. But I would also, talk to lawyers. I would go to legal clinics. I would go to spaces where professionals that have spent their time trying to master this discipline, that they can give me the right advice in the event that I have to defend myself in the court of law, or if I have to defend myself in front of, let's say, a law enforcement official. Like, if you're looking at YouTube primarily to learn about the law, I think that is very problematic. I do think if you're looking at it to learn more about it, but you already have a fundamental understanding of the law through experts, then that's a totally different story. And I hope that people that watch these sort of things from, sovereign citizens or First Amendment auditors be very, very, very careful with how you take this information and how you defend yourself using solely that information. If anything, if there's any major lesson that one should take away if they choose to want to learn more about this situation, is trust a legal professional. I would rather trust a first year out of law school, working at legal aid, possibly getting paid peanuts to take the case. I would rather trust those folks with my life, because at least I know that those individuals had to go through law school. They have to take a rigorous bar exam to be state certified. I will trust them any day of the week before I trust myself. And I'm college educated. I have a degree. I've studied the law in college. I've worked alongside individuals that are legal experts, but I don't deem myself as a lawyer. I don't have a JD. So I know for a fact that if I need any support in terms of understanding the law, I'm not going to just quickly go to fucking YouTube. I'm not going to quickly go to Google, or maybe I will, but it's just going to be very surface level. I'm going to go to an expert. I'm going to learn from the expert. I'm going to go with the person that has a JD. I'm going to go with the person that has an Esquire next to their name and have them possibly defend me. Because if my life matters that much, you can say whatever you want about putting it in somebody else's hands, but I would rather put it in the hands of a professional that has the knowledge to know how to go about things of this nature than to put it all on myself, especially if you know that you're the one that has committed the crime. Probably not a good idea to defend yourself. You should probably be looking for an easy way out so people can, feel sorry for you and get a lesser consequence. But this whole shit is mind-blowing, but it doesn't surprise me, because people like them, either are the dumbest people in captivity, or they are the types that need mental help, and they should not be defending themselves in a court of law, because nothing positive comes out of it. And in case you haven't figured it out by this point, he loses the case. He is convicted on all counts. His strategy failed.